And now it is my pleasure to introduce Tyne Morgan, who is back to host the summit for a third time. Tyne is the host of the U.S. Farm Report, the longest-running syndicated program focused on agriculture and rural life. Tyne is a Missouri girl who has generations of agriculture rooted in her blood. She got her start in public speaking through FFA, and after getting her first agricultural broadcasting job in high school, she went on to study agricultural journalism at the University of Missouri-Columbia. After spending countless hours on the road as the Ag Day and U.S. Farm Report national reporter, Tyne was named as the first female host of the U.S. Farm Report in 2014. Please help me in giving Tyne a warm welcome back to the Stakeholder Summit.
Well, it's an absolute honor and privilege to be invited back, and how things can change in 2 years. 2 years ago, when the Animal Ag Alliance asked me to come and host the summit, I remember it clearly. Missouri's home, and so I decided, you know what, this will be a good chance to take the girls home, 2 and 1 at the time, and I survived my first solo plane ride with a 2 and a 1-year-old without alcohol. Thank you. That was an accomplishment, right? But now, 2 years later, this past year, or in January actually, we made the decision to truly put family first and move back to the Kansas City area. So, God opened doors that I didn't even think were possible. My husband and I both have transitioned with our 2 little girls back home, and you don't realize what you're missing when you're gone until you're actually back with family. And so we're loving every second of it, and good to call Kansas City home again. But it's been an eventful year in 2019 in a lot of ways, in a lot of different ways. And I used to ask people, where were you the night of the last presidential election? And now I ask people, where were you the night of the Super Bowl? Because this was a pretty eventful Super Bowl. We were back home, and I was very, very bitter that Sunday because I still had not gotten over the Chiefs losing and not making it into the Super Bowl. So I will admit I was not excited about watching the Super Bowl whatsoever. But my husband, I was in the kitchen cooking, and he goes, "Did you see some ad that really ticked farmers off?" And I mean, he's in the seed business, and I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I quickly pulled up Twitter and quickly realized exactly what he was talking about. I've never seen so many farmers so vocal, negatively and positively both, about one ad. So then that quickly escalated, and saw some other tweets from National Corn Growers Association and other things. But I'm talking about this ad right here, the ad from Anheuser-Busch that basically put beers that use corn syrup and use ingredients made from corn in a negative light. And so, as I'm talking to some of the other groups, and the weeks follow, and I'm trying to figure out how did this play out, I interviewed at Commodity Classic this year. I sat down and interviewed the CEO of the National Corn Growers Association, John Doggett, and I said, "John, was this planned? Did you know that this was coming out?" And he said, "Tyne, we had absolutely no idea. But the night of the Super Bowl, I was sitting right next to our communications director. Just so happened we had a board meeting the very next day in Colorado. Sitting there with the communications director, our mouth is on the floor as this ad came out, trying to figure out what was going on. That corn was being featured in a Super Bowl ad, maybe not positively, but being featured in a Super Bowl ad." And he said, "We quickly had to realize that, we can wait until tomorrow, issue a press release, hammer something out and maybe talk about it tomorrow, or we could respond with a tweet that day and that moment." And that's exactly what they did. And John told me that one tweet had more impressions than all of their other tweets combined. That one tweet. And they chose to respond with something humorous and basically inviting them, saying, "Hey, Anheuser-Busch, we're right down the road. Come visit us. We'd love to talk to you." And then did a couple other tweets and spun it more positively. But John told me a couple weeks before that, they had a different board meeting, and the moderator had said, they had asked the group, if money was not an object, you had all the money in the world, and you could do one thing, what would it be? And one of the board members said, "Well, I'd buy a Super Bowl ad." And John said, that Sunday, we didn't have to buy the Super Bowl ad because Anheuser-Busch bought it for us. And so they decided at that moment to take a seat at the table, not wait until the next day to issue a press release, but do it right then and there. And I think it's that one instance that proves that maybe our seat at the table isn't always planned years in advance, isn't planned months in advance. Sometimes an opportunity arises that we can use it and take that publicity as negative press, or we can spin it in a positive light and really spark this this fire under people talking about this one ad and spinning it in a more positive way. And did it, that one tweet and that conversation, did it change everything? No, it didn't change everything. On my drive home, a couple weeks later, I actually saw that same billboard, or a billboard with the same ad on I-70. And I think Anheuser-Busch quickly realized that maybe that side of Missouri, the anti-corn isn't maybe who they were trying to cater to, and so they switched it to a Busch Light ad, which is more like home, right? The other day I was at a restaurant, and a guy that I graduated high school with was like, they asked him what he wanted to drink, and he said, "I'll take a Stella." And then she said, "We don't have Stella." And he goes, "Okay, I'll take a Busch Light." Two very different things, right? Two very different things. I don't know how you go to Stella to Busch Light, but that's kind of how it is. But you know, they quickly realized that maybe they weren't catering to the right audience. And I actually did a story on AgWeb. I did a story about how Bud Light was paying for that Super Bowl ad and lost sales. And because we found out a few weeks after that ad had gone out that actually Miller Lite had gained in market share, Coors Light stayed flat, and apparently that's a win for Anheuser-Busch when Coors market shares stay flat. And then Bud Light market share had actually dropped after that one ad, after they paid all of that money and did this ad. And so, you know, and Anheuser-Busch actually reached out to me right after that story was unveiled and never corrected me on the market share being lost, but said, you know, we do use corn in our beer, just more of our value brands, which apparently is Busch Light and some of those that, like I said, is popular in Missouri and Iowa and most of rural America. But you know, like I said, that seat at the table doesn't always have to be planned, and it's capturing and being in that moment and truly fully utilizing that to our advantage, I think is something that can't be planned, but we always have to be ready to do. And kudos to National Corn Growers Association for doing so and hoping that momentum can continue and that momentum can last. But it's definitely been some momentum that they didn't have to pay for and they've been able to capitalize on. And it's refreshing to see something that could have been so negative turned so positively in just a matter of minutes. So as we go about the next couple days and really look at how we can take a seat at the table, you know, and Animal Ag Alliance is always so great about encouraging you to not only plan ahead, but truly have all the resources at your fingertips, and a lot of them that reside at Animal Ag Alliance, to be able to respond in any manner. And I think what we've learned the past few years is it can't be planned. A lot of these will catch us off guard. But if we have the tools at our fingertips to respond, we can turn something so negative into something so positive. So I'm excited to the next couple days. The Animal Ag Alliance Summit is always something that brings out some great speakers and brings out some great points, and always learn over the next couple days. And so I hope that you'll have that same experience as we progress.